Those are my shoes. I got you good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shyzalosophy 101. That's right. It's great to be alive. Oh, wonderful. Here's your host, Shyzabox. Oh, it's a show starting? Oh, it must be. We heard our introduction. Oh, everybody loves us. Quick, giddy up, girl. Oh, we're going to be late for work. Hurry. Girl. Get out of here. And the horse. You rode in on. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, nuns and all. That's right, priests, preachers, cardinals, rabbis, bishops, weirdos with beardos, Alcoholics Anonymous, anyone who is kicking back, sitting back, looking for a place to hang out. Welcome, nuns, welcome all. We have got a fantastic show for you today. Sorry, apologies. Of course, by fantastic, we of course mean free. We've got a free show for you today. But remember, of course, you get what you pay for. All right. Excellent. As we venture into getting set up upon the throngs of being as set up as we're going to be, we thought to ourselves, we're about to have a cup of swill. We might as well go and hang out, kick it, have a embarkment of a time with which whoever wishes to hang out and have a embarkment of a time therewith, right? So, we thought to ourselves, yes, thank you. We thought to ourselves, if there was one thing that inevitably we wanted to obviously touch base with and continue to monitor and things of that nature to this point that we haven't touched base with and checked as of yet, necessarily today, it's the dumb technical. Of course, it's pretty funny that when we woke up today, we, of course, our first little stream there, we didn't think of covering or talking about the conversations that we embarked upon and, the thoughts with which we endeavored to pursue, contemplation thereof. But in having done that and having seen inevitably that we were unaware of how a lot of these kind of systems and metrics and measurements worked, inherently, it kind of made us rethink an entire scope and way to enact what would afford an entire, as we said earlier, Bodie McBoatface, all right, interaction to take place with which one could correlate the complete idiocracy that is maintained and harbored within that of mankind's limited logical thinking. Okay? Now, obviously, let's put our thinking hats on because we don't want to just venture into that of which willy-nilly, right? That's right. So you got to be really, really careful when you're picking up a pickup game of philosophy, okay? To not just dive in unexpectedly, okay? One must be completely ready. So whilst we don that of our thinking attire, we afford ourselves the opportunity to be ready to speak upon the, thresholds and throngs of what is necessitated. So, as we were saying earlier when we woke up today, we didn't think that we would venture and endeavor to try and, go along and talk about how the New York Times bestseller list, in essence, we feel, has been inevitably an entire sham of an existence to our reality, okay? Our whole lives. Now you might be saying, What, Shyzabox, they got one on good old you? That's right. They got one on good old Shyzabox. We're sorry, Internet. That's right. We let you down. All ones of our fan. Hi, Mom. Not only did we let you down, but we didn't extrapolate exactly all of the information that we needed to. Okay? We never understood, we never realized that in essence, what is the New York Times bestseller list is a blatant kind of lie. Okay? With which now can measure, because of its inherent structure and how it's set up in the confines thereof it, it can be measured with merely the text of delectable, okay? Puts itself in a very, very, very fun situation to, play with that of what is the world. When you venture into, all right, that of lectonic usages of terms and things that are unsayables, that hold places in thought and form and function that are generally not practiced, preached, or understood to the degree of what they can do or inflict upon the parameters that are in established, understandings of being, of one's reality. Okay? The usages therewith afford one quite the opportunities to engage in different metrics with which they may not formerly have felt comfortable in doing. Okay? The afforded opportunities, to utilize a tool like lectin to disseminate and or obtain that of the informations and or processes you wish to obtain the information for, or the processes, the information thereon, the sky is the limit. Okay? When we ascertain for ourselves, because we were always under the guise, back of the mind, sure, as a, self-published author, as an independent researcher, anyone would be foolish to never mention that, sure, they want their books to be on the New York Times bestseller list, they want them to do well, they want them to, do that of which they will, to where they can make a standard of living. The Nicholas of the Sparks, the Stephen of the Kings, the George of the RR of the Wiener. Whatever, you write about whatever you want. There's only so many authors that can do each. Your Stephen King has your horror, your George R.R. Martin has the wiener writing down. We joke, we kid, this is all for philosophical entertainment. They have their place, they have their thing. Not every author can do that. Not every author is going to get that big budget payday to where they're going to go buy mansions, okay? Shyzabox, on his books, we make, a couple pennies, a couple cents on pages read if you read it on Kindle Unlimited. That wasn't a joke. That's just how much we get. And we make like $1 or so if someone buys one of our books, okay? No more, generally not so much less, okay? Approximately $1 or so, on our works. Now, it fluctuates, it varies, every title's going to be a little different, okay? But inherently, when you utilize the understanding that the New York Times bestseller list has been Brondo force-fed to people for generations now, it's an just very, very, very flabbergasting thing to try and understand that people have literally been Brondoed. It's what minds crave for their entire lives, our entire lives. We always thought that the New York Times bestseller list was what Brondo actually was, what actually minds did crave. But no, it's a good old boys club, and the only way to get your work or your literary endeavors on that of the New York Times bestseller list, especially as an independent author, is to buy into the system with which you must pay money, all right? Which everything is free. Food grows via water, which is free, and sun, which is free. Energy can come via sun, which is free, and water movement, which is free. You can harness the power of the wind, which is free, and the sun, which is free, via the means with which you can harness the power thereof. You can harness the power of magnetism that is ingrained and enveloped in that of the core structures of the lithical rock, foundations of the earth. Nature provides, lithic logic dictates thusly, that nature can account for every endeavor or metric needed. When you look at the ways that the New York Times bestsellers list mandate people to not freely, but out of necessity, have to join the good old boys clubs, what are they? The Ingram Spark and the Draft to Digital. If you want your book, especially as an independent author such as ourselves, to ever make it on the New York Times bestseller list, then you must fairly much adhere to the Good Old Boys Club and join those. One of them is like a $20 flat fee to join, plus you got to pay to make changes on occasion, whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is that it's another account you got to sign up for. It's another metric of data on you collected. It's another form of control over that of what inevitably the New York Times bestsellers list will only pull from. We could sell our book, Delectable, millions of copies in a week. Internet, world, whatever. It doesn't matter. It would not theoretically reach the New York Times bestsellers list, okay? It could sell millions in a day. Still theoretically would not, because New York Times operates off of their metric of a secret, changing, fluctuated amount of physical books that it tracks and keeps up with. It changes, it fluctuates, it's not standard, it's not set, and they can pick and choose whoever the F they want to promote to their New York Times bestsellers list. You can't convince us enough that it's not a good old boys, kind of club, and that we weren't invited to it. Okay? Why would you celebrate that, Internet? Because your books suck. Okay, that's fine. Our books can suck. You shouldn't buy them then, especially the physical copy of Delectable. That in where is the vernacular master of Shyzabox's genius, which comes into play. We already proved our theory in the utilizations that we have with lectin, okay? When we monographed lectin and then we started the formalized usages thereof, we have literally moved a metric kernel of data from Kaggle to Web3, the future, IPFS, the internet, the wild, wild west of the future. Bold claim cotton, you can't state this shit on the internet without being able to back it up. We don't hide behind our math. We don't hide behind our science. Knock yourself out. Visit the IPFS site right now. Okay? We've got smaller iterations of code that we house for free on Pinata's free pinning service so that people on mobile can dibble-dabbly-dabble with it. Those aren't words. Don't worry about it. Point is that obviously we can't pin and host the entire IPFS site because that shit costs money. Does it look like we have money? No. That's why it irks us to the extent that you have to be a member of these paying good old boys clubs, and a work can't stand on its own merit and metric and accord, okay? Well, that's right. Okay, now, of course, Shyzabox was a little off the cusp there, not working under an NDA, not working for a big company, being an independent researcher with all of his works, means, demos, working theories, Apache 2.0. Anyone could show up with a briefcase full of cash and be like, dude, come work for us. And they could. They might not. They might not want to. Doesn't matter. The vernacular mastery comes in the forms of lectin itself being that of the unsayable sayable, all right, and then pertaining to that of what is a living practice, philosophical practice of being in Shyzalosophy, in essence, that of Delectable, that of the lectin themselves, took on the meaning, took on the work, and have, in essence, broken Amazon.com's pricing algorithm on its own metric and accord by making itself, as of last we looked, 94% off on Amazon.com, okay? That was not us. That was not Shyzabox's discount on that, okay? That is the book itself pricing itself into existence to usurp all of these other third-party entities and things of that nature, all right, that prevent the resurfacing of that of what would be truth from coming out. Okay? Now, like we said, we already proved our theory. You can argue with it all you want. Okay? You can please audit it at your leisure, at your will. We don't hide behind the math. We don't hide behind the science. They're open right now. Go to the Kaggle in the descriptification. Knock yourself out. Okay? Bold claim on the internet, Cotton. You can't go around saying you theoretically decoded Voynich manuscript and not expect some kickback. So you better open source all of it. So we did. Yeah, for the most part. Delectable is now in the position, okay, because a $250 book. That's right. Don't buy it, okay? It's physics, okay? It's Wheeler's hit by bit, okay? Bit is free, information is free, okay? We already established the sun, the water that is provided inherently through nature can grow that of food, which would provide that of what inherently nature necessitates, that of our needs. Sure. When you have these components, these metrics that are baked into the system itself, it functions under its own accord, under its own substrate of a foundational knowledge, okay, of a foundational existence that inherently wishes to exist. All right? What is that? That's, God, for resonant stability to really take hold and really take effect, all right, you need to balance quite a fundamental degree and offset of terminologies and correlations inevitably to get what would be a metaphysical empiricalization, okay? A way to computationally put a mathematical and verifiable metric on something like that of constructor theory under Deutsch and Marletto, okay, which we have done, okay? Well, that's why we offer the open Kaggle. That's right. You can't go around just saying that without having any kind of computational proof, okay? You'll get eaten alive on the internet nowadays, and believe you me, from what we know, being a cannibal isn't appreciated. But it matters not what you buy into, what you choose to look into or ascribe to, all right, and this or that of that, your own subjective reasoning, logical understanding, and things of that nature, all right? Inherently, Delectable has positioned itself to now, because the work itself is free, okay, Wheeler's it by bit, okay, information, knowledge being free. There are ways to read Delectable for free. You get it on Kindle Unlimited, you go through it there. All right, these third-party resellers that price it at $250, the cost of the book, okay? They don't monitor, they don't maintain, they don't keep a, view, a watch on the copy-paste kind of metrics and endeavors that they do. So when a book is theoretically priced out of existence, all right, to where it doesn't resurface as regularly and, that of it, appearing here and there by any metrics, means, or accords is unafforded, that of the capacity for a comprehensive additional second layering, in essence, all right, you could... There's accountings that are necessitated to verify that of a primary system, okay? You can't have a primary system without a substrate with which it can verifiably subsist on, okay? For the parameters and means and understandings of our Shyzalosophical closed Gödelian loop, all right, it is imperative for one to understand that of the terminology pertaining to perfect knowledge, or a version or iteration thereof, we prefer to say, okay, is due in fact and mainly in part because that of what we have as what is deemed perfect knowledge in itself, we wholly reserve for the understanding to be utilized, used, and appreciated, only fully understood by that of God himself. Okay? So believe that of what you will or what you may, all right? That of the foundational metrics and measures of understanding, that of Lithic Logic, has facilitated us the ability, all right, to not only kind of comprehensively understand, at least via our own metric, measures and accords, whether you can subjectively agree upon that of, the same throngs or issuance thereof itself, all right, within that of yourself, is up entirely to you, okay? To each his own, everyone is their own philosopher, everyone is their own historian, merely because we have a infatuation with the seeking of what would be deemed truth, all right, what would be categorically just the seeking thereof, merely only truth, and not wanting any more of the BS, all right, so we put all of that kind of petty stuff aside to the best of our ability, okay, mankind is flawed, so thusly, good old Shyzabox ourselves are even flawed as well. Well, we can't be perfect all the time. We aren't Jesus. No, but we did want to touch base and, once again, just kind of state how the Dumbtectable is now up and running, knowing that New York Times has, in essence, set up a system of Brondo knowledge, all right, to showcase what minds crave, and house the books and the literary endeavors that are force-fed thence to the public. It's flabbergasting. It really is, to just understand that inherently this system's been in place like this for some time, and we ourselves weren't even privy to knowing about it. But as we start taking note, as we start covering it ourselves, we shall be, of course, leaving up, that of our metric. We will be checking in. We should go run some of the numbers. We doubt they have changed, as usually, obviously. They will have not. But we do want to be sure that we are at a lithical understanding, a baseline, foundational, solid rock foundational understanding. All right? With which we can productively seek the understandings of how Delectable is poised to showcase and highlight many a Bodie McBoatface endeavor in that of this world. So, we're going to cut it there, and not much going on or anything like that. Good old Sunday night. You be sure that you take care of yourself first and foremost. There's only one you. We can't replace you easily, okay? We can't just go around making fake accounts and subscribing to ourselves all the time. They've given us a warning about that. Theoretically, this is all for philosophical entertainment. Though, we do need to, real quick before we end, obviously, apologize for something last stream. That's right. Like we said, we're not perfect. We can't be. Only God is, right? We must apologize for something last stream. That's right. Pertaining to last stream. Sorry about that. Okay? Apologies. We didn't mean to do what we did. Good, even playing field, right? Perfect. All right, well, that's pretty much, like we said, you take care of yourself first. There's only one you, and we can't replace you. We enjoy hanging out with you as much as you enjoy hanging out with other people more than us, but when you call Daryl Dixon dibs on being the best and the worst internet celebrity there is, everything's pretty much going to be the worst, but the best of it. Our guarantee to you is everything else that you watch, that you like and or love, way more than us, unlikely, but maybe. You'll enjoy, like, and or love far more. So, have yourself a great time. Remember, as always, obviously, we don't want your subscription, we want your money. Downvote the shit out of this, go to Cashapp and give us a buck, or go to Amazon.com, search Shyzabox books, and buy one of them. Get off our lawn.